All right, so we're going to get into some of the defensive motions first. One of the first things that everybody's going to learn are the defensive blocking techniques versus just going straight into offense. So learning the weapon and learning how to first hold and flip is going to be our primary objective. Starting with one is great, and then we can start with two once they get more comfortable with that. So as we start, we're going to, again, take the weapon between our pointer finger and the webbing of our thumb, wrapping around the bottom, and then pointing down just like we would for the cane, but instead of using our thumb, we're using our index finger to keep that play out of there to make it strong against my body. So that way there's no reverb, and that if that's metal, it's not hitting my funny bone either. So it's, you can see it's nice and tight here. Here is, and just make sure that's the index finger, no other fingers, please. Right? We want to make sure that we learn how to twirl. So this is going to be considered flipped in, right? So the technique, the Sai is pointing down, not the technique, sorry. So the Sai is pointing downward. So for me to change and invert the weapon to a flipped out position, I'm going to take my index finger and I'm going to come across with my other fingers, and I'm going to hold over the top. And you can see everything is kind of playing in between the webbing of my hand. So from here, I just come over the top, right? And I'm squeezing with my thumb, grab, and then flip out. Now, the way that I would get that back is I would take my thumb, come back over, and let that flip in, grip, and down. So one more time. So around, flip out, right? Take the thumb, and the thumb is going to change, right? And then that will drop you down. Now you can start to play with this once you kind of feel the tension between the webbing of the hands is starting to just kind of open and close, open and close. And this can be outward. You're going to find a lot of people are going to drop this, so I would have them start in the stationary position, hold, turn. Thumb comes over, reverse, back down, over, hold. We can get into the fancy, and that will come weeks later, where we start looking at the down block motions to extend and create length, or to have almost like a center block motion come up and out. So you're learning the twirls and the spins, and that will come a little bit later. But again, just holding the weapon, transitioning to outward, flipped out, thumb goes over, and then arm goes in. So, and again, if they've got two weapons, right? This is going to be a tricky thing. So they can do it one at a time. One, flip, two, flip, cross, cross, flip, flip, right? Or one, two, right? So you get the idea. So, I mean, you can find various levels for challenges inside of your class. Now, as we start to break down some of the techniques, we're going to have our weapon flipped in. We're going to go into our fighting stance. So I want to make sure that we can see this. So it's going to be flipped in for this particular technique. What we're looking at, you're going to hear the term, you're going to look at cover and repel. You're going to hear those terms used a lot whenever we start to do our defense, and we'll get into that a little bit later, but cover and repel. If it's going to the inside, it's going to be cover. If it's going to go to the outside of our body, it's going to be considered repel. When we break these techniques down, this is going to be week 1, week 2. So as we start to go through this, really, really important we get the basics of the blocking down. So first thing, in our fighting stance, holding in our flipped in grip, not our flipped out. So we've got our hands up. Again, empty hand on the other, or two sides. Doesn't matter, right? However you feel, especially kids, probably best to start with one. Adults can probably manage two. First thing that we look at, first high. Right? So it's going to be high, almost over the head, right? So we look high 1, high 2. So we look high, it's going to be higher than our head. So we're going over the head to block over. Outward is going to be 2. This is going to be our repel side, right? And notice my hands are still tight like a fighting stance, right? So 1, 2, 3, face level, 4, cover, right? 5, mid-level, 6, 7, my palm comes up and I'm inverting through and I'm coming through here, right? So then back the other way, and then I'm going to come across with my forearm for the next technique. I'll step back so we can see that again. So let's go through all movements here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Reset. Other side. So you would switch feet, right? And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Reset. Those are going to be your defensive techniques from flipped in.